Hi guys, Tiffany here. So I'm on later than I usually am, but I had been asked for beginner block. So with quilt number 2, I decided to go absolute 100% beginner block. What do you guys think? I love it. I think it looks awesome. I made 2 so far, just so I had everything right for a beginner. Because even when you're further than a beginner, you still have to check like a beginner. So that's the block. And we're going to start from the beginning, how beginners do this. So let me just make sure that I have everything the way it's supposed to be. And my volume down on this, obviously. Okay, I gotta move the camera up just a smidge. Hey, series. There we go. Ah. I had to move everything down on my table. I had to come down on my table this way just a little because I needed room to work on this side earlier, so. Okay, so for an absolute beginner, the first thing you want to do is make sure you have your sewing machine, your cutting mat, move those out of the way, your rotary cutter. For this project, a marking pencil, but you can use a pencil or a pen or a disappearing pen or something, and some scissors, because I'm using scissors for this project, some snips just in case, and rulers. You need rulers. So from an absolute beginner standpoint, first you need to make sure that your machine, the needle, if it adjusts side to side, sits at 1/4 of an inch, or that you have your 1/4 inch foot on your sewing machine. How I measure my 1/4 of an inch when I'm on my other machine, even though I already know what number in my head it is, and I wrote it down for further if I forget, but you can write it down too. Just write it on a little sticky note. Take a sticky note and write down the number that you always sew on, so you remember where your 1/4 of an inch is. We're going to look at the 1/4 of an inch on our ruler. Mine is right here, and you just take and you put your needle down and you line that edge of that needle up the 1/4 inch line, and you'll see some iron. What am I thinking? Iron. Some sewing machines have a metal plate. Actually, all do, but on the metal plate is the measurement. Some sewing machines don't have the 1/4 inch measurement on it, so mine already does, and it's aligning just at 1/4 of an inch because the foot is also 1/4 of an inch. But some machines are different, so you might want to check your machine and or your manual. So that's one thing I do want to make sure for a beginner, that you make sure where your 1/4 of an inch foot is, because 90% of all the projects you will do with quilting requires a 1/4 of an inch seam. So just letting you know, you need to make sure you have it set at 1/4 of an inch. So on my machine outside, which is a brother, if I put my setting on 2, which is a straight stitch, I can lower, what is it called? I can lower the stitch length, and then the other button on there, that zigzag back and forth thing, that's your stitch width. Lower or higher that to what on my machine it's 6.0, which is, it moves my needle over that way, and it makes it 1/4 of an inch with the foot that I use. On some other machines it could be different, or other feet that you have on the machine, other presser feet. So it just all depends on your machine, but make sure you are at 1/4 of an inch. That is 100%. Know that for a beginner, because when I started, I didn't know that. I just started sewing. I knew that it had to be next to an edge, but I did not know that it had to be 1/4 of an inch. So if you are new to quilting, new to sewing period, make sure you set your machine at 1/4 of an inch. Secondarily, cutting all of your fabric. That is the next step. I'm going to show you the difference on this. We are working with 5-inch squares. Now, you can go anywhere that sells fabric these days and buy 5-inch charm packs. They come with 42, always different colors. Always, I mean, you can't see this on mine, obviously. You can't see the colors, but always different colors charm packs. Some come open where you can see the colors that are in it. And then I have some here that are sealed in plastic, so I cannot see what's in there. But on the back, you might get lucky and it'll show you the fabrics that are in it. So, for this beginning project, I would suggest, before cutting all your own and you're not used to those measurements or how to use a rotary cutter, I would suggest just go buy these. And for this project, you will need 4 charm packs, or 160. I wrote it down. I didn't actually write the exact number. I think it's 160 squares, or 128. One of those numbers. I'm pretty sure. I have this on, so I can't use the calculator, but it's 4 charm packs worth. That's all I know. 42 times 4, whatever that comes up to. So yeah, these are how the charm packs come. Some come with different wrapping, some come tied, some come folded in half, but this is typically charm squares. So when someone's talking about charm squares, this is what they're talking about. So beginners, this is a charm square. But I'm using fat quarters. And out of 1 fat quarter, you can get 12 5-inch squares, and then you'll have a extra piece left over that's a little bit over, almost 2 inches, but it's a little bit over 1.5 inches left over from a fat quarter. So when it comes to fat quarters, you will probably need 15 fat quarters for this project. I'm trying to think about that one in my head, but I'm so lousy at math. So, secondarily, for this project, since I already have all of my pieces, see that? All my pieces are ready. We need a center 5-inch square, which is 1/4 yard of fabric. It's 3 5-inch cuts, so it comes out at 15 inches of fabric for the 5-inch squares, okay, from yardage. And then 1 yard exactly to get the stack of 3-inch squares. So what you would do with 1 yard exactly of fabric, you lay it on your cutting mat and you go to your 3-inch line with, you can either use the long ruler, I don't have my long ruler right here with me, and you line it up and you make your cut all the way down the fabric. Then you go to the 6, line it up, and you can keep it all right there next to you. If you can't see the line, you can move the original piece you cut away. I should have done this for a beginner, but I had pre-cut everything because I was making sure I had enough and enough to tell you guys exactly what we needed. And this is exactly 1 yard for all these 3-inch squares. They're 3 inches by 3 inches. So 1 yard and 15 inches, give or take. I'd say 1 yard 17 inches, just so you have enough fabric in case you mess up. We'll give you all the 3-inch squares and all the 5-inch squares. You guys are making 16 blocks. That's what this is, 16 blocks. I'm making 20, but with your 4 charm packs, you will get 16 blocks. I wanted just 16, but I'm adding more to my project myself. So anyway, where were we? All right, so from a beginner point of view, make sure your machine is at your 1/4 inch, and we are going to start doing this. So you take 8 of your 5-inch squares of color. So I'm going to choose 8, and I'm going to lay them right here. You can probably see what I'm doing here. I'm setting mine up black, white, gray style. Just so that I'm mixing them all up, so when it does lay out, it will lay out just right. So my darkers and or gray colors will be just right so when it goes together. But you can do however you want. And I'm kind of doing whatever I want, technically. And then you take one 5-inch square of your solid. And you lay it right there. Can you see that? Move that back so you can see. You lay it right in front of you. Just like this. Okay. Now that you have it laid out in front of you, you take your 3-inch by 3-inch square. It's a complete 3-inch square. And you take and mark with your pencil. This is why I said you needed a pencil and or marking tool. Mine are pre-marked, but, and you would draw a line. You would line your ruler from corner to corner. Now, give allowance for the thickness of the tip of your pen or pencil. So you can also just lay that pen or pencil on the tip and bring the ruler to it. You make that mark from corner to corner. I do not waste fabric, so I have these little dinky squares. That is the leftover, which is made, and I will show you how to do this so you don't waste any fabric. You come over to a 1/2 inch from that line that you just drew, and then you draw a second line. Why are we doing this? You will see right now. Remember, corner to corner, come over a 1/2 inch and sew a second line. Okay? What we're going to do is come back to this right here, which is our layout, because it's for beginners, and you're going to take one piece. I'm going to start with the top, and we are going to take our 3-inch square, and where the smallest piece you drew comes to the outside of that square, you are going to lay it exactly on the corner, and it should be perfect. You lay it exactly on that corner, okay? Once you have that done, as I said, this is for beginners. You're making sure that your second line that you drew is towards the outside, okay? Because we are going to save that for another project. And as a beginner, I didn't know that, and I had all these pieces. We want you as a beginner to learn not to have all these extra pieces just thrown everywhere or thrown in the trash, because you can use them. They come out to be 2-inch squares. So these are perfect to save, to make another project with, like a table runner, or if you just get a ton of them, make a scrap quilt. So where we're going though, these two lines, your smaller line is towards the outside. We are going to work with this center corner to corner line right now. Okay? So we're going to take that corner to corner, and we are going to put that exact corner where that line is starting at the tip of the needle. Okay? And then you're going to drop your presser foot down. Remember, it's at the tip of the needle, and you will see in between the lines of your presser foot, in between the open section, you still see your line, then you know you're going straight. You are going to sew on that line. And just take it really slow, since you're a beginner, on that line. Follow it all the way across to the other side, okay? And I'm going to use my cutter on my machine just to get this done properly and quick. Okay? Now you have that corner to corner. So if you fold this over and you press it, oh, I forgot to turn the iron. You press it over, that other corner now should line exactly up with the original corner. Okay, guys? But don't do that step just yet. We're going to come to that other line, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put the needle down exactly where that line starts, and we are going to sew across that second line. Now there's two lines. Now you're like, oh, what do I do with that? You'll see in just a second. I'm waiting for my iron to heat up. I totally forgot to have it on. Do I have anybody on with me right now? So now you can see my iron is on. We're going to take that, now that I finger pressed it just a little, finger pressing is when you take the tip of your nail or your fingernail, I don't have a fingernail on this finger. You take your fingernail, I'm not flipping you off, I swear, okay? Take your fingernail and you hold that fabric back and you slide it across the material, just like that, and it'll sound funny with your fingernail. You take it over to your ironing board and you push that back. Pretty sure you can see what I'm doing, so I'm trying to stay in camera view here. So now you have a block, but we're not done. Remember the scissors I was telling you about? You're going to open that back up and hold it nicely, hold the ends away, and you are going to cut away that other piece by cutting exactly in the middle of those two sewn lines, giving you one piece and piece two, which I'll press it so you can see that too. Piece two looks just like this. So now I have two pieces. So piece two can just go in your pile. Piece one is now complete. Your 3-inch square is now sewn on there diagonally, making it still a square block. Now we're not done. Let's get some more. So now you take another 3-inch square. Yep, that's right, you heard me. And we are going to, again, attach it to where the shorter line, which is the further away line, not the center line, but the second line that we drew, we're going to put it on here, on this corner, with that line. Okay, so here's the block. That smaller line is now on the bottom half. Okay? So when you fold it in half, like this, you will see it makes the corner. So you know you have it right. So we're going to repeat that same process. We are going to take, line that first line up, the center line that you drew between center to center, corner to corner. You're going to stick that right back where the needle is, and we're going to sew down that line now. And you can go as slow or as fast as you want. So now we have that center line sewn, okay? And then we're going to come back and sew that next line. So right straight on that line. Don't worry about anything else, just sew straight on that line. Okay, once you have that complete, take it to your pressing mat, put the iron down on it for just a second. It heats up the thread so that it relaxes it and it makes it easy to move. And you roll that fabric back. And look at that. We now have a complete square all over again. So it started as a square, change it up just a little, and it's a square. So now you peel back that first piece to where you can see both your stitching lines, and you can see in between the both of them. Make sure you're not grabbing this piece as well. Just want in between those stitching lines about 1/4 inch away from each side, which is exactly the center. Okay, put that away in its pile. I'm going to press it down one more time just to make sure it's right. And right there, the first start points. Okay, how's that for easy? That was as easy as it gets. So let's repeat the process 3 more times, technically 6. We're going to grab our 5-inch square. This one's white, so you won't see it down on my area, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to grab our 3-inch square. Well, we'll just start on this bottom part so you can see. You line it exactly in that corner with your second drawn line, which is the further away line, in towards the end of the square, not the center line. Make sure that's on the outside. So here's your center line right here. We're sewing, we want this outer line towards the outer side of the square. And you're going to lay this down at the needle again, and you're just going to sew down that line. Do your best to stay on that line. Once that's on there, come back again to the other line and sew on that line, straight down it. By the time you get one block done, you will get the hang of it. I'm just going to cut it away now because we are on block 2. This is how much faster you can learn to speed up. Now you have that, heat that fabric up, that thread up real quick, and then slide it back. So there's one part. Grab another 3-inch square. Remember, you're putting it on the diagonal, that's the second line that you drew towards the outside. Okay? That's how you know you're sewing it right. If you didn't draw that line, it wouldn't matter as long as your center line is crossing over this other green square or whatever color you're using. We're going to line that up at the needle again. We're going to sew straight down that line. Come back. I normally wouldn't even cut thread, I'd just turn it, but for your guys, since you're beginners, you'll learn to do it a specific way, just like this, the easiest way to yourself for now. We're going to cut in between those 2 lines. All we do. When I started, this is all I had was regular scissors. We'll put that one aside, bring it up here, heat that thread up, and roll it back. And once you have it all done, you can press with steam on the whole block if you need to. Some people do not use steam, just letting you know as a beginner. I didn't have a steam iron, and now that I do, I like it. It works better for me. So now, this is what the back looks like. You can see that the seam's pressed to the dark, and the front, we have a V right here. There's a V. We want that, and we want it to stick out because that's going to be hidden in our 1/4-inch seam when we put it away, or put it together, I mean. Then we grab the next block. Now this block I have directional. So I'm going to pick it up in the direction that it is, and I'm going to lay my pieces on there with its direction. Hello, Tracy. I didn't even notice that you were on. I had the comment thing off. I thought I had it on. All right. So again, we are sewing on the corner to corner line, the first line, making sure our second line is towards the outside of our square. Line it up at the needle, right at that tip where it comes together. So straight down that line. Come to the next line, right where it comes together. And cut it. Take your scissors, cut directly in the middle of both of those fabrics, or those sewn lines. Fold that back after pressing it. Now I'm keeping with my direction. I do not, because of the direction of my fabric, if you can see, right here's my little thing, I don't want the other piece on this corner. I want it right here at the top corner because that's the direction of my fabric. So I'm going to turn it, line it up, oops, so you got to make sure you line it just right, right at that corner. It should meet perfectly, and then sew on that line. Holding your piece. Try not to keep your fingers in the way though, but hold your piece as you go. It'll help you as a beginner learn. Further along you get used to things, you won't have to hold so closely. Just keep your fingers away from your needle. I really recommend keeping your fingers away from your needle because I have put my needle through my fingers. You don't want to do that. So, lining up on that second line, sewing straight down it. Cut in between the two. It doesn't matter how perfect your cutting skills are, just that you cut down the middle between both stitch lines. Press that open to the dark side, and there we go. Now direction wise, do you see how that sits? So my directional fabric is now on there. This one is also directional, right here. You can see where my hand is pointing. But I want my triangle, my little diamond pieces to come off the side of it. So I'm going to bring it to me, and I'm going to put them on the side. Again, put it right down where the needle comes. So straight down that line, in between your presser foot. You can see between that line. Come to the second one. Hold your fabric. So between both those lines. Cut in between the two, right down the middle. Warm your stitching up. Pick up the edge and roll it back. Take your next piece, and since I wanted it to face this way, I'm going to lay it back here if you forget, and even grab another piece while you're at it. That's how I know I want it right there. Normally I wouldn't have used a directional fabric on this, but this is what I came up with to make it as easy as possible for a beginner. And then the next project will be a jelly roll. So make sure your needle is lined up at that corner. Straighten up. Now, if you have an older machine and you find that every time you come to this corner, because corners of fabric can be a little tricky, if you have an older machine and you find that every time in this corner that your needle is sucking your fabric down into the holes that the needle goes in, take a little piece of fabric that means nothing to you, like this, stick it down in there. I call it a leader cloth, and so does everyone else, and sew that first. So that will be sticking out because the needle is now down in that hole already. It shouldn't pick up the edge of the fabric. So then you just line your next one up, sew down the line, and then the only extra part you'd have to do is a leader cloth. But if you're chain piecing, which a lot of quilters talk about, that's keep flowing this fabric through over and over and over again, which is normally what I do. So right now as a beginner, here's your leader cloth. If your machine is older and it starts sucking it down and it's just tearing your fabric up, I suggest using a leader cloth, which is a piece of fabric that you put in before anything else. So there are some people that do it with every project. So now we did 2 lines. We're cutting in between the both. Put the one piece aside. Take the other one up to your pressing board. And there we have it. When I put it down right here, look. My direction stays the way I wanted it. My directional fabric. So now we have a star. Now you're wondering how we put this together. Let me show you. This step is just a little bit easier than the first step. This one, all we're doing, let me get a drink of water first before I keep going. Sorry, all this talking today at dry mouth all day. Okay, so sorry about that. This is how you would be at your own home too, so in reality. Okay, you just be relaxed and normal, your everyday thing. It's best when you're a beginner. Second thing I can give advice on when you're a beginner, now that you have all the stuff to sew, put all your areas close to you, because when I began and I didn't know to press in between, I was like all the way over one side, all the way to another side, getting up, sitting down, getting up, sitting down. If you have a little TV stand or a portable ironing board, or even your tall ironing board, stick that next to you. So that way you go from here to here. I just so happen, for video purposes, to have set it up so I can go from here to here to here so that you guys can see. See? I was thinking this time. So, let's get to putting this together. So now, this is what in the quilter world is called a 9-patch. Like that. Now it is put together as a 9-patch. Let me bring it down a little bit. So now we're going to come over here, and you're a beginner, you don't want to get out of place. So we're going to do this slowly. You're going to take the middle piece right here. I'm pretty sure you can see that really good. And you are going to take it exactly the way you found it and place it over the first piece. So that's right sides together. And then you're going to align them up exactly. They should fit exact. If you had your 1/4 inch seam, you should have exact lines where your ends of your color and your solid meet up. It should be perfect. Okay? We're going to take that piece right sides together, exactly how you picked them up, flip it over, and we're going to take it over to the machine, and you're going to put it on, for me, you can't see it that way, but for me it's my right hand side. Keeping the left hand, you're sewing the right hand side of your fabric, not the left. Because some people can sew from this side too. Okay? So, right hand side, align your foot up at your 1/4 inch, or use your 1/4 inch foot, however you manage to do this. You are going to sew down that right side of the fabric at a 1/4 inch. Just make sure it stays nice and flat the whole way through. And we're going to take it to our pressing, and we are going to press this back seam. Let's press it first. We're going to heat that up, and we are going to press it to the piece that does not have sewing on it, okay? So that means that your seam pushes to this side, okay? So you take it back to your spot. So now, it looks funny because you have a seam missing. Now you're going to take that next piece, and you are going to lay that right sides together. When I say right sides together, I mean the pretty part of your fabric is going to go on top of the pretty part of your fabric. Right sides together. You don't want ugly side to pretty side, because then you'll be seeing the back. So pretty sides together, right sides together is how it says in most patterns and stuff, and when you're learning. To the right side of your fabric, lay that presser foot down and sew a 1/4 inch seam down that side. Take it back to your pressing mat, keeping it just folded like that. Roll that open, nice and flat. Okay? So now, it looks even more funnier because we're missing 2/4 inch seams. So there's a 1/2 inch missing from that whole thing. But it's okay. Just wait. Now we're going to take that middle piece, and we are going to put it right sides together with solids. There might not be a right or wrong side, but we're going to put them right sides together anyway. And we are going to take that and sew it down the right. Now don't worry about your seam, because you already pressed that bottom seam. Should stay down and flat to the dark. It should be sitting really nice and flat. Would help if I line my pieces up. And again, you can go as slow as you want or as fast. I keep my machine on bunny rabbit, but you can have yours on turtle. Lie that down, press your foot down. So a 1/4 inch seam all the way down that side. Now this one, because we want our seams to nest, I am going to press it. Rolling it to that center fabric. So this seam goes this way. The first seams in this first row, the seams go out on both sides. This middle row, our seams are going in, and both of them will. So, lay it back in your spot. You don't want to get out of place. You're a beginner. You don't want to lose your spot. Just lay it in front of you. Look at it. Now, take your next piece, right sides together, bring the whole thing over to you, line it up even right in front of you. And again, don't worry about that seam. It should be pressed nice and flat and should stay where you put it. 1/4 inch seam on the right side of that fabric. And this, again, make sure this piece is up. I'm going to heat it up, and then I'm going to lift it and pull it back like this, folding the seam towards me because of the way I pushed it. So it should lay nice and flat. And to make sure you have no wrinkles and pleats, you can flip it over if you have to, and roll both sides. And when I say wrinkle and pleat, I mean you can actually pleat the material at the fold, and it rolls over and takes away from the size of your block. Then you lay it back in its spot. Now it's starting to make sense, right? So again, bottom row, start with the middle one. Put it over on top. When it's sitting in front of you, it should be to your right, the side that you're sewing, to the right. And you're going to sew 1/4 inch seam down that side. Line it up. Sew that line. And we're pressing this one out. So lay it back in your spot, and the seam is now pressed to this dark side, to the open fabric, because that's the way it wants to lay, because so many seams come together right here. So the fabric itself wants to lay that way. So pressing it is quite simple because it wants to go that way. Fabric typically wants to go the way that there's less seams on its own. So we lay this back on here, make sure it's nice and square. 1/4 inch seam, straight down that side. Just lay it up here. When I say roll it back, you're pushing that fabric outward. That seam underneath is going outward. Now we lay it and back to where the beginning, where it looks correct now. So now we got to join this seam and this seam. See, it's in 3 pieces. So now we need to join those 3 pieces. Now, as a beginner, nesting seams, you will learn this. We're going to take that top piece and we're going to turn it upside down, right sides together, to that middle piece. From the middle, I usually feel the fabric. You will feel at that seam, put your fingers where that thread is, on the top and the bottom, and you can literally feel, because you press those seams, you can feel those fabrics nice and flat between each other. They are literally butting up in between each other, like this. Now, for a beginner, if you need to, just take a pin, put it in where that seam is, like this, right at that seam where you feel it flat. You can take a pin, put it in, and let it hold itself down. Then you come to the beginning right here, and this is how you know you have a really good seam and lined everything up. It's because there's pins. Now right before you get to that pin, pull it out and just keep sewing. Right before you get to that pin, pull it out. And make sure your other end is matched up even. Make sure it's sitting nice and flat. Now I'm not going to press at this point. I'm just going to open it up, okay? And I'm going to keep it in front of me. I'm going to bring this next piece in front of me, okay? And I'm going to lay it on top of the middle piece, right in front of me. Again, those seams, you'll feel them nesting together. It's very simple to feel. If the centerpiece seam is going in and the top piece or bottom technically piece is going out, that means they're crossing each other like this, sitting in between each other. Just feel that. It will sit perfectly if they are ironed just right or pressed. It doesn't matter how you say it, pressing, ironing, it's all the same. So then you line that end up, go down your 1/4 of an inch, and if you're not using pins, just feel, put your finger at that joint where those two seams come together, and then do the next one. Hold your finger at it, line your fabric up, hold your finger at it. Stay on your 1/4 inch seam. Right before you get to it, let go. Come to the end. And this should be the block before pressing it. See, it's all together. So now I'm going to take it to the iron, keeping this folded in half, like this. I have the fan on, so it's going to mess me up just a little while I'm doing this. And I'm going to heat that seam up. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fingers and go in between the both of them, and I'm going to roll it back with my fingers, pushing it down nice and flat. And then I'm going to take the iron and I'm going to run down it. Now that I've pushed it back with my fingers, I'm just going to run it down that top, taking this tip of my iron to that seam, pushing it back. Then I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to fold that other one back shut, right on top. I'm going to lay it right here and heat that up. I'm going to use my fingers in between, and I'm going to slide that open, holding that seam down. Because I have my fan on, it's kind of messing with me, but we're just going to iron that nice and back. Should be no folds or pleats in it. It should press really nicely. Now let's check our work. Look at that, guys. Amazing what we can do as beginners. Look at that. We have a completed block with a beautiful star. Probably looks better when it's down here. But if you look at your points, my seams, where there's a line from this seam right here, and a line from this seam, and a line from this seam, and a line, they literally sit on top of each other, edge to edge, side to side, perfectly. Look at that. Couldn't have done it better. So yeah, once it's completely done, if you need to, just take the iron, go over the whole entire thing. If you need to add steam, add some steam. And there it is. So yeah, and then when it's next to all its pieces, look at this. This is how it'll lay. I'm going opposite, black, white, black, white, black, white. So doesn't that look so adorable? So this is our beginner star block, guys. From 4 charm packs, you can make 16 of these blocks. 4 charm packs, 1 yard, 16 inches-ish, just to be safe on the safe side since you're a beginner learning to cut, of yardage, 1 yard and 16 inches. And then you're cutting these 3-inch squares, make these right here, and also these little pieces that come off for another project. So, and then these are 5-inch squares for the center. So the block should finish at 14, almost 14 inches. It's like 13.75. Mine are finishing out at 13.75. It should be 14 inches. But yeah, it should come out 13.75, 14 inches, something like that. But all mine came out the same so far, so maybe it is 13.75. Yep, 13.75. 13.75 on all of them. So these are our blocks, guys. Isn't it beautiful? I love it with this. This color is called Ocean, and it's a Waverly Inspirations brand from Walmart. Yes, Walmart people. It's a Walmart brand because I am cheap. But you know what? It works just the same as any quilt store quality fabric. My kids' quilts that I made for them are made with Walmart fabrics, and I have washed their quilts 300 times or more since they've gotten them. They have been washed a lot. And nothing has frayed or broken or fallen apart or anything. So just to let you know, there are cheaper versions for people who are on a budget like me. So here's our block today, guys. I love it. It's just as absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. So that is our star for beginners. Hope you like it, and I'm going to get off of here because I'm just making this one tutorial video. So if you need to work on it more and practice and practice and practice, you can rewatch this video over and over and follow those steps. These are 3-inch blocks. The big ones are 5-inch charms, and the solid color is a 5-inch block. Those are the 3 things that you need for this particular block. And then when it comes to putting them together, I will show you that too. So for now, we're just going to make the blocks just like this, okay? 5-inch charm pack with some yardage, 1 yard and 16 inches to be safe. And these are cut 3 inches strips and then sub-cut into 3-inch squares. These are made in 5-inch strips, sub-cut into 5-inch squares. You only need 16 5-inch squares if you're doing 16 blocks, but if you want, you can do 20 and just buy another charm. So you'll need 5 charm packs if you're going to do 20. Just letting you know that. So yeah, that's what you need besides your cutter, sewing machine, iron, rulers. Should all be good. So I hope that helped as a beginner tutorial, as I made it like I was a beginner. So I tried my hardest to pretend I was a beginner just for you. So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more. There's a description. It says what size charm pack, 5-inch squares, and enjoy the rest of your night. Bye.